Well, I am thrilled to present to my wonderful audience here at Arise Humanity a expose on the topic of how we can help our beautiful bee population. And this is a really important topic at the moment, how to help our bees, because as we know, the bee population has been highly impacted lately for a variety of reasons. We're going to go into that. And I just want to welcome everyone. I'm Medina at Rise Humanity, and my beautiful guest today is Brent Knudsen, who is all the way from Canada. And I'll just give a little brief bit of background, and then Brent can share a bit more about himself. But Brent has worked with mathematical algorithms, specializing in digital money. He has a passion for sacred geometry and developing frequencies to build healthy cells. So for 20 years, he's been in the process of developing this work, but the specific business of PureWave has been in play for now 4 years. So he is working specifically in different ways with the bees and the beekeepers, and he has a lot of knowledge to share on this topic, which I think is essential for people to know about at the moment. So big welcome, Brent. It's wonderful to have you here. I am passionate about bees. I've got my bee background. For
Thank you.
4RBEES is your business, 4RBEES, and here's your background here. And
Yep.
it's wonderful to have you here, and I know you've got so much to share. So perhaps just give me a bit of a brief background about yourself, and then we're going to go straight into why it's important to support our bees at the moment.
Okay. Well, first, hey, I am thrilled to be with you and the various audience you have. That is so exciting for me to be able to and honored to be able to speak to. So I'm really happy that that we were connecting, that you reached out, and it is a pleasure to meet you. And uh, my background, as you said a little bit, really is because really everything is math or geometry. It really is in the structure of everything. So my background, and I'll just be quickly with that, is that I came out of that background dealing in high-end mathematics and forensics to algorithms and moving really moving digits around in the 90s to then develop debit and credit and those instruments and equipment. And that was really fascinating because when I was doing for years all those kinds of constructs and algorithms, it really led me into that it followed exactly and very similar sacred geometry, right, which is, goes back before Egypt, into Sumeria, back into as far back as that we have our history. So I saw that coalition. And so as a hobby in those days, we're talking 30 years ago, I was fascinated by all the ancient symbols and structures and religions. And that led me, I was really fascinated I knew they meant all really led, all those roads did lead to Rome, one place, right? So I always was passionate, that was my passion. And so then when I left the corporate world, in 2008, I developed full time into getting into constructs for healing energy, frequency medicine. And that led me straight into dealing with cellular health. So that's where, and I got into all kinds of things and I developed, a environment where I could do a lot of research. And it was in 2015, though, with the development of what was really happening with the bee population declining so rapidly, that I elected to go and see what kind of effect what I was developing would have on the bees. And so then that started all the research then, so about 10 or 11 years ago. And that led to 4RBEES, which was started 4 years ago to actually go out and do something about it. So going from research into actually engaging. So that basically is, hopefully that helps to.
Brilliant. You're making such a big difference for the bees, and I'm so excited to share actually what you're doing specifically with the audience, which is, what you've just briefly covered. So I think people will be really interested to know what you're doing, because it's something new and unique that is making a big difference to the immune systems of bees. So we'll get into that shortly. So we've talked about the effects on bees. Let's talk about the decline in the bee population. What are some of the factors that are creating this awful sort of depopulation of bees that's been happening? All the things, there's so many things, aren't there, like the poisons and the different pesticides and everything like that.
Well, yeah, and so when I started diving into it and looking at it before I went about a solution, what really the three biggest factors seemed to be was one, the varroa mites, which basically attach to the bees and they really take their immune system down. It's like like a tick almost, a very small insect.
Yeah.
So that's one that beekeepers have been struggling with for a while, and they use various chemicals to deal with that. So now you're entering chemicals or treatments on a chemical level.
And bees
So
are so
again, we're into
sensitive too, aren't they? Like, bees are so sensitive to things that they can
well,
die.
and then like us, they're being treated, but they're being treated with chemicals, to kill the mite, but then it affects them. Same as we're being treated with chemicals.
Yeah.
But so that's one. Number two was different pesticides that they're being exposed to as they're out pollinating. So that's two.
Yeah.
And three then was the 5G, 4G, 5G frequencies,
Radiation, yeah.
which is disorienting. And you and I, depending on how much you want to talk about, but when you talk about natural Earth frequency, which is called pulse electric magnetic frequency, that comes from the geomagnetic flow from the Earth, and then the Schumann, which is the lightning strikes. All life needs that particular frequency. It ranges between 0 to 30 hertz. So that's interfered with when you start getting to 5G for bees and us and every living creature. So those three main things. There's other things as well, fungus and different things like that.
Chemtrails.
So the bees go out but what's elevated and what made it unprecedented was the fact, I think, in the levels of 5G, and then the levels of, because pesticides were there, but this disorienting in 5G, because that rapidly expanded over the last 20 years. So that one came into it. So those would be the factors that I found that when I went out with beekeepers, that these are the main things that had changed, that were bringing in such a destruction from the bees and really depleting their immune systems.
Sure.
So these were the things that really had changed over the last 20 years. Then the fourth one, but no, is food source. So of course, bees are pollinators, and a big part of it, pollinators with our food sources. So when you have fields of corn, and fields of things that we're planting, those don't have any food sources for the bees. So that was being depleted simply by the amount of agriculture and what was going on there. So depending on the areas and how, and we'll talk about how we've changed that into wildflowers and food sources for the bees, because that's another big part of really helping the bees and then building their immune system. So that I'll stop there, because that was your question, was just what's affecting the bees, right?
And I love that we're going to really focus on solutions today, because that's really going to give people great hope and encouragement that, we can do some huge things to turn this around. The other thing is GMOs too in food, that impacts the bees as well, because they're not getting those natural food sources that their bodies recognize as organic, natural sources.
Yeah. That's the food source part. That was what we were talking about with the corn and different GMOs.
Yeah.
So, yeah, you're absolutely right.
Yeah. With the work that you've been doing, please tell us now about this mission that you've had, because it's quite extensive, and I want to cover it all. What have you done to reverse this situation for the bees?
Okay. Well, the first thing, before I get into the mission part, the first thing with all that research was to develop a simple technology, something that could go in the hive, required no electricity. In other words, worked in nature. So it wasn't manufactured, or it wasn't something that had to be connected somewhere to counter it. So when I was doing all my research back to the sacred geometry, and again, we can get into this depending on what time you have, where the technology comes from, but it's all based on magnets in the sense of I deal with neodymium magnets to then glue or construct a frequency that I want to hold. So I had to develop the frequency that built up the cells, and there's a whole story on that as to what we went through to find that. But that's sacred geometry at its finest. And so basically, we're taking that principle of the flower of life structure, and without going into what all that is, which is amazing in itself. That's a 2 hour topic. So what we did is we were able to develop, and I was able to finish developing how I could lock in the PureWave cell that you see back here. Is that, and maybe we'll show a video on that later on about what that's looking like, so your audience can see. And then being able to place that in the hive so that the bees, when they go out and are exposed to the things that we just mentioned, when they come back to the hive, the PureWave cell with its frequency builds up their immune system. It builds their cell systems up, as it does with us, and it does with plants. It does it. It does it across the board. The PureWave cell. Thousands of people use that for healing. We have thousands of people that purchase that from us for healing. But the bees really respond to it. So then we went testing.
In the grand tapestry of nature, a delicate balance weaves life's intricate threads. At its heart lies the humble honeybee, a tireless guardian of this equilibrium. Through graceful dances, bees pollinate a symphony of blooms, nurturing the cycle that sustains our world. As petals give way to fruit, their delicate touch ensures abundance to our food supply. It's a crucial reminder that our fate is intertwined with theirs. But today, this balance is faltering more and more as bee populations face unprecedented challenges. Without a collective effort to rescue our bees and enhance biodiversity, we're headed for devastation on a global scale. But amidst the chaos, a solution has emerged. A rallying cry echoes, a call to protect these guardians of our food chain. Introducing 4RBEES, a technology-driven organization that is saving bees globally and organically every day. At 4RBEES, we understand the critical role that bees play in maintaining the balance of our ecosystem. Saving the bees is synonymous with saving our planet, and 4RBEES is at the forefront of this mission. Through our revolutionary PureWave technology, along with collaboration, community education, and our corridor pollinator initiatives, 4RBEES is saving and replenishing bee populations worldwide. Our continued research and development in PureWave technology is the fundamental engine of this movement, ensuring a brighter future for the bees and for our world. The path forward is clear. To save the planet, we must save the bees. But we can't do it without you. Every dollar pledged by you for 4RBEES products is directed straight towards our mission, including providing PureWave cells to more and more beekeepers worldwide, free of charge. As a dedicated supporter of 4RBEES, you're fostering bee health, supporting global ecosystems, and contributing to a harmonious environment for our planet. It's an unequivocal win-win situation for all. And at 4RBEES, we make the mission of saving bees fun for everyone. So what are you waiting for? Join this incredible movement today. Visit 4rbees.com to learn more about how you can save the bees and redefine the course of our future. 4RBEES, saving bees, saving the planet.
See, now, in order to really save the bees, we have to save the beekeepers because they control 96% of all bees. So if we don't support the beekeepers, there is no bees. So it basically is, and they need like financial support. They need the backing of someone who's coming in with a mission like 4RBEES. So we provide all the cells, the PureWave cells into the hives, the food source, the seedings, so food sources, and we provide what are called immune sort of built up queens when they do replace their queens. And so all those things we provide at no charge to the beekeepers.
That's
So
one.
and we have hundreds and hundreds of beekeepers now and soon to be thousands. And we have them in Africa, in Norway, in United States, in Canada. So our goal is to spread it everywhere.
Not so many
And
in Australia, apparently. So I'd love to see
not
more of
not
this
not in
going.
Australia, not in
Yeah,
Australia yet,
yeah, yeah.
but soon, and we are having contact from there for sure.
Yes.
But what we're doing is we're in a non-invasive, non-chemical, non-electrical. It comes in, and that's where the magnets, the earth magnets, are the keys for us because we're taking, raw earth magnetic frequency, which is through magnets, and then we're gluing the frequencies together and formulating and radiating that in a quantum field so that literally the hive turns into a quantum field every time the bees come back. And so what happened through our research, we would always put the hives without and the hives with. And we went to commercial beekeepers who had, 800 hives, and we'd separate 30 hives with, 30 hives without. And the results were nothing short of phenomenally different. Like the honey production, the reproduction of the bees, the health of the bees. So we went through all of that to the point, and then we did a 3-year bee study with Dr. Magda Havas from Trent University, who is an authority on 5G frequencies and all of that, and people can look her up. We did a 3-year study with her that she was gracious enough to come and do. It was a non-paid for. She did that all on her own time, and that 3-year study was completed last fall. Phenomenal. And it's on our site. It's on the 4RBEES website, so people can read that report and all our research.
All the
And
information will be below for people to.
what's that? Sorry.
All the information will be below for people to.
Yes, but
follow
that's where they
that.
can see this research I'm talking about,
Yes.
and then hopefully some of the videos we put up through this conversation will be showing some of that, the befores and the afters. But really, what it boils down to is we're just building the bees' immune system so they can withstand what they're up against when they go out and are pollinating and foraging. So they're going out and being exposed, coming back. Just like us, they come back to their home or the hive. I call my home the hive. You come back and we're exposed to all kinds of stuff. We come home and that's where we need to heal, right? As we heal there and we recharge. And so that's what we're doing. And then for our bees, we started the mission that we could give all that at no charge or free to the beekeepers and the public support us. So everybody that buys honey from us, buys the PureWave cell, that all goes to the beekeepers and starts to change the dynamics of what's going on out there. And with our beekeepers last year, here's an example. There was tremendous bee loss last year, and the percentage of all the beekeepers that we had with the PureWave cells, they were losing 10% of their bees when the average was 60.
Wow.
So that's in the pudding. That's what we're looking for. So the difference is already turned, and it really is. People like your viewers and the public out there are making that difference. They're
Yes.
with
Yes.
them supporting 4RBEES
Yeah.
is they're able to do that, and that honey that we provide to the public only comes from those hives that have the PureWave cell, and then we energize it with a system that I have. I have a machine called the Chrysalis E that then injects and energizes that honey. And we have videos on that. If you're on our site and you go to the honey video, all of that's in there so people can see that. And I must make a note that in Australia, We can't import honey because Australia doesn't do that. So that anybody in Australia listening is that you can't purchase our honey because of that, because we can't import it. But certainly the PureWave cell, which is which we'll get into, is phenomenal for humans, for pets, for plants, because it's all at a cellular level, right?
I love
It's
that.
all at a cellular level.
And they are so sensitive. And you know what I really like too? The fact that we are doing for the bees what the bees are doing for us, because not only are they pollinating our food, but they also, apparently their humming sound, which is in the note of middle C, has a very powerful resonant healing effect, and it can impact people with autism and things like that. And I have actually a clip on this, which I'll try and play at the end, where a doctor talks about how they've done studies, and the sound of the bees humming actually has a frequency that heals as well. So we're healing them and they're healing us.
No, it's a complete synergy,
Yes,
just like that.
exactly.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
exactly.
No, that's well put. Well put.
I love that.
Bees are very cool this way. So a hive of bees will thrum its wings in the key of C. And when you put somebody with PTSD, post-traumatic stress disorder, in the presence of a beehive, that C retunes their cognitive dissonance of post-traumatic stress. And over the course of a few months, that PTSD can go away simply by being in the resonant frequency of the key of C from bees. This is the next step of medicine, when we start to realize we are actually biophysics. We are physics before we are biology, which is to say we are energy before we are a cell.
I want to share with you too, Brent, just in honor of this today. I have a painting of a cat with some bees. I don't know if you can see it here, but this is my bee.
Oh,
Cup.
yes, yes, yes,
This
yes,
is my
yes.
bee cup, because I love bees too. And this is
Nice.
called catching a bee. So it's got CAT for cat, and then it's catching a bee. That's my painting.
Nice.
So what I want to discuss now is to just get a little bit more description of what the PureWave cell, we've sort of covered it, I guess, but it's a non-invasive frequency-based solution working with magnets and sacred geometry. So you spend a lot of time, I think 20 years in terms of like all the research you've done to develop that. And it works for not only the animals and birds, but for people as well. So the PureWave cell is something that you put into all the beehives. So people in Australia, for example, that are wanting to get a cell for their beehive, they can contact you. Or if anyone who's watching this knows a beekeeper, please pass this information on to them so that they can find out about this technology and really support their bees. I know in Australia there have been many governmental agencies that have been destroying beehives, saying it's to do with could be the vermin.
Corallamites, yes.
Or different things like that, and but it's been very upsetting to see that going on with the bees, and the beekeepers are saying that the bees are fine, and then they're going in and taking out some of these beehives. So we do need to do everything we can to support the bees at the moment, and this is the purpose of this video and connecting with you guys, and I think you're doing amazing work. So is there any more that you need to share on the PureWave cell? For example, how it works to save bees, any of the success stories? You've just shared one there. I think you had a wonderful one about some rescue birds as well that were impacted by the PureWave cell.
Well, let me start by a bit more for your audience about the PureWave cell. And again, we'll have video, I think, that you can plug in to show this when you want to and appropriate.
Absolutely. Yeah, I'll add it in. Yep.
This is critical because it ties back to the sacred geometry, all those symbolisms that go back to Sumeria through Egypt, which is the flower of life and the star tetrahedron. The star tetrahedron, for people that don't understand that terminology, it's the Star of David. So it's the one that has the two pyramidals inverted, six-pointed star.
Yeah.
And what it was is, and I'm going to be brief on this, is when I dove into why that was everywhere. I mean, that came from Samaria, all through Egypt, all through Rome, all through every major religion, whether that's Muslim, Jewish, Christian. It's in all their churches. It's in everything. It is on law enforcement. They have the stars right on their chest. It's in corporate. If you look at Walmart, it has the six-pointed star.
Yeah.
It's everywhere in our life. You're actually looking at it. And what you're looking at is the actual cellular blueprint. So in my videos, I show that live, the first thing, this is what is incredible. And if nothing else out of this, that this is something that you get out of this conversation. The very first thing, that it doesn't matter whether it's a reptile, a mammal, a plant, right? It makes no human, is the first thing our cell does is it goes into the flower of life. The first, when it splits, when it goes into mitosis, which splits, what happens is that's the first shape. That is the first shape that it goes into, and we show that live.
Is that one? It's the one that I'm sharing now, the flower of life.
Yes, absolutely. And then I show it in real time because that is what the cells respond to. What you're basically looking like is a universal intelligence. Is you're looking at nature itself in full bloom, right? So you're looking, but you're really looking at two dimensions of a three-dimensional object, which is the actual atom itself. If you take the points and do this, so now the atom is in everything that exists here, solar system, universe. So the only difference between all things is its frequency that it vibrates. But we're all made of the same stuff. So when we make a statement that we're all one and we are all made of the same stuff, the thing is we all vibrate differently. So now that we know that, we have to capture a frequency that the cells respond to. Well, they respond to that shape. So what I did is I took that exact geometric shape, which you said the flower of life there. And what I do is I inserted it into this disc and I put it to where the magnets are cut into petals. So they had to be exactly so much into a format where they could be placed into that geometric form. But because the magnets want to come together, they're attracted north and south and they want to snap together, I hold them in place. So they're doing this all the time. And I lock them into place and they create a frequency that is an algorithm that the cells respond to. So all humans, all animals, all insects, and all reptiles and plants. So we have tests, and that's what we'll talk about. So we have tests where plants respond to it without water. They'll go from wilting to completely in bud with no water, simply with the cell. We have people that use it all the time for inflammation, for pain reduction, for recovering, for injury recovery. Anything that has to do with recovering inflammation, the cell will respond to. They put it under their pillow. It has some remarkable results with tinnitus, for ringing in the ear, because again, those are things that are coming into it. It also reduces or provides for deeper sleep, because I mean, so many people suffer from sleep deprivation, but it's because of outside influences, right?
So it's setting like a quantum field around you that is stopping interference from anything negative and sort of restoring a balance, sort of like a stabilizing, balancing energy that is in resonance with your cells.
So if you just picture this, each cell in your body is like a little battery. So it's a little battery. Now here's the facts. If your cell has an electric field that is below 29%, like it's low in electric field, you're very susceptible to cancers, all forms of cancer. If your cell is above roughly 40% and kept into that area of 40%, it's impossible to be interfered with on a cancer level because it's so charged. It's basically what the cell is up against. So here's the thing. and people sometimes, and when I make this statement, somebody says, "Oh, I've heard of it" or whatever, but it's not even that. The only cancer that you never really hear ever about is heart cancer. When's the last time you heard of heart cancer? And there's a reason. It's your highest electrical field. It is the highest electrical field, and it's unaffected by that, right? So if we can charge those cells up, then what it does to the body is the body knows how to fix itself. It always did. What we do is we interfere with it so it can't fix itself. So that's what's going on. As I said, we live in a world of chemistry. So that back when, it wasn't that long ago that they used to have to do exploratory surgery to find out, they used to have to cut you open to find out what was wrong with you. Well, now they use frequency medicine, MRI, CAT scans. They don't, right? So, but when they go to treat you, it's right back to chemicals. It's right back into chemical form. Sure. So we have to join the two together, diagnose with frequency and treat with frequency, right?
Absolutely.
So
I think it's the way of the future. Definitely. Is that tying in with the body being more acidic and more alkaline as well when you talk about the different states of energy?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Because a highly acidic body is a low battery cellular body.
Yeah. Yeah.
When you're alkaline, those cells are at a higher level. And of course that has to do, it has to do with what food you're eating. Well, what is food? Food is nothing more than energy, frequency. That's all it is.
Yes.
All we're doing is converting, right? So if the PureWave cell, what it's doing, it's bringing a frequency in, not in a food source through here, but it's coming into the cells, and the cells are going, give me that, give me that. That's what we're looking for. We're looking for that. So the reverse, here's the reverse. If I put everybody in a room with radiation, it's invisible. And you won't feel anything. You wouldn't feel anything. But 2 weeks from now, the body's going down and it's going into cancer form because it's been radiated, right? This is the reverse. Yeah. So this is, you don't feel anything, but 2 weeks later, your allergies are starting to change. 2 weeks later, something else is happening. So it's the environment you're in.
Yeah, I'm totally sensitive to energy. There's a beautiful town near where I live, and I love walking there because the energy is so beautiful, and it's so clear to me how wonderful the energy is there that we always walk there because we love it so much. Yeah, I'm very attuned to energy, and I think a lot of people are, that they can feel the difference in their bodies, and we're becoming more intuitive as well, that we can pick up what works for us and what doesn't. And in the same way as the bees, that they're impacted by frequency, we're just as impacted as well. So it all applies to us too. So what would you like to share going forward, Brent, about the empowering the bees and the beekeepers? So if people want to support the work that you're doing with PureWave, how do they, as well as we can't buy honey in Australia, for example, but how do they donate? How do they support you to get these cells to the bees, as well as sharing the information too that they've heard today?
Yes. Well, because there isn't the honey part, there's two ways right now. Is a lot of people pledge. They pledge, and what we give back is showing them all the feedback and support to the bees of what we're doing and where that goes into it. So that's that's on our site. That's pledge. A lot of people that can afford have picked up the PureWave cell because that's a benefit to them. So not only are they healing the bees, they're healing themselves and they're supporting the bees. Right. So that's how,
like your animals, like a lot of animals are being impacted by the energies.
Oh my God, we get so many testimonials.
They'll love it because they would be more attuned to it than even people are. Probably people have more blockages than animals, and so they pick it up even quicker and respond.
Well, let me tell you some stories that people that have purchased the PureWave cell for themselves, and they'll have it around the house. Because also, I have to mention, because it also cleans food because food is pathogen. So with 5 minutes exposure, it's taking E. coli and Listeria and Staphylococcus out of the food that you're bringing from the grocery store. So just by putting it on the cell.
How do you?
Oh yeah, no, and of course all of that research is on our site too. We sent that to the labs, had that tested, so it's got multiple uses. But anyway, my story was people were using it, and then all of a sudden they couldn't find it. It wasn't around, and then they found it where their pet had taken it, put it in their bed, right? And so they stole it, or they'd show up to the door with it in their mouth, right?
I love that.
And stuff, and then we started to get testimonials what it was doing for their dog, what it was doing for their cat,
Mm.
and we had one what it was doing for their rabbit, so there was another, like different pets, right?
Well, my
So
dog's chewing
um,
his paw, so yeah, I'd be great for him because he's been really chewing his paw a lot, and I've had to put like a cone over his head, and it's just a bit of a
But
nightmare.
put it in wherever he sleeps, have it like on a pillow so that it's comfortable, because it will radiate through that pillow
Yes.
up to like another foot outside. So put it in when they're sleeping. The best time for them to have that cell is when they're sleeping, and have it right under them or around them, and watch what starts to happen, right? So it's amazing, really. So Savannah reached out to us through an email. She's from New Mexico, and in a unique way, she got involved with rescuing sparrows.
Mhm.
And out there, they have a bird called a roadrunner, and different birds that are local to that area. And she has this amazing nonprofit for taking in. So if people have little baby birds or they're out of net or whatever, they send them to her for rehabilitation, and then she releases them back. So she had we had a wonderful conversation, and I said, well, look, we'd like to support also what you're doing, with the bird rescue. So we sent her 4 or 5 PureWave cells out to start to that when she brings the baby birds in, from the nest, and put them on the PureWave cell and just see what happens in rapid recovery and so forth. Well, she had this roadrunner. That roadrunner eats snakes and stuff like that. Well, a snake had bit it or something that had happened where it came in really injured, and she put it on the PureWave cell, and it had a bit of a virus too, and it was just miraculous recovering of over time of what happened. And she's filming these things now, and now she has the nest that are on the PureWave when these little baby birds come in as they're coming and growing. Their full environment is with the PureWave cell because it fits nicely. It fits nicely with where she can put it. And so what I said is the next thing is we're doing videos with these recoveries when they come in, the recovery, and then when she releases them. And we're going to do those in such a way that people can really enjoy watching that, watching that process.
Yeah.
And then what we want to do is some of the proceeds that we're doing when campaigns, we will also support that too. So now it's the birds and the bees, right? So we've got, but that's really her. She's driving that, but the PureWave cell is right there too, right? I mean, it's doing its thing.
Wow.
So yes, all the animals, and for the listeners, for your pets, for your plants, and your food sources when you're coming in. In the United States, I don't know if it is in Australia, not so much in Canada either. But if you walk into any kind of pharmaceutical or grocery store, you'll see there's entire aisles for antacids or Pepto-Bismol, stomach disorders.
Yes.
What's actually there is people are being mildly food poisoned when they're just regularly eating, right?
Yes.
Like they're eating food.
Yes.
And so and what it is there's in that food and they're processing it, but they have a mild food poisoning. So the PureWave cell really helps with that because all you have to do is expose it, and you can put it in the fridge, and not the freezer, but in the fridge,
Yeah.
and you expose that, and that helps with all of that. Because I mean, the last time that I ever took anything to do with a stomach disorder, it might have been 30 years ago or something. Like it's just these are not things that should happen from eating your food, right? So
No, and
um,
they do trace a lot of issues in health to the biodome of the digestive system, and when that's out of balance, it impacts so many areas of disease and health issues. So it's very, very important to keep that digestive system, that whole biodome, really in the top sort of condition. And I must say too that you are, if I can share with the audience, you're 70 and you look extremely young, and you also look super healthy. So can I share that?
Well, that's I thank you so much. But yeah, no, I'm just turning 70. Yeah, so I mean, it's like, where did that come from? All of a sudden, where'd that come from?
Well, you certainly don't
So
that PureWave cell. I can see it's really working. So,
oh, on that note, sorry, on that note, we have practitioners now that have come. We have what's called an ambassador program. So any of your listeners can be an ambassador. But what these practitioners, so one, Laura out of Texas, and if you like, we have a little video of her. She specializes in stomach pathogens and parasites. She has introduced and sold to her clients, like really tens and tens and tens of PureWave cells to help them with their gut issues. So we already have that out there, but that was something that they picked up on, and these practitioners are doing it with their patients, right? So it's phenomenal, really.
Oh,
It
wow.
really is.
So every time you buy a PureWave cell, you're also going to be helping the beekeepers and the bees, because those funds, that
Big
money
time.
will help go towards that as well. So that, I love the fact that you're doing all that. Please share with us the urgency of this mission and any other ways that our listeners can get involved.
Okay, so the urgency is that what we're doing now is typically when you start something, it starts off slower, but now it's speeding up. It's going into rapid speed, where we now want to spread out, where we have beekeepers all over the world where they need it. Like, for example, when we sent it to the beekeepers in Kenya, Africa, they're using the cell to actually support food systems for their village and all that kind of thing. So it crosses over. So your listeners can make an impact, not just with beekeepers, but food sources and across the whole planet where they really need it, right? Everywhere. So the urgency is how many hives we can get to, how many beekeepers we get to, and then what's starting to jump on with people that have large tracts of land that don't have any children to leave it to or so forth, have been contacting. They want that locked in for the bees, so we can start to lock chunks of property. We can feed into that food sources. We can make a difference on how this works because it's unrealistic to go out and say, hey, we're going to stop everything that's going on. So the technologies that we're using, you and I right now, and our phones and everything, they're miracles for communication. They really are.
Yeah.
Right? But they're not good for us. They're just not good for us, and they're not good for animals and insects. So what we can do is work with that, because you can't stop that. So what we're doing is going, let's work with it. Let's bring in other, like sound canceling earphones, right? So you can't. So what we'll do is we'll take those frequencies that aren't so good for us, and then we counter them with other things like we're doing with food. So we're changing the dynamics so we can all live a life, and we can go ahead and we can change and go forward, making a difference on how we'll blend this together. So it's solving a problem as we go, right? That's the urgency.
I think the really strength of really building the immune system is so crucial at the minute. So I love that aspect of it. And I want you to share with us too, Brent, because you mentioned earlier about the wildflowers. What's happening with the wildflowers in this whole scenario?
So what we do with and we're spreading it out, we'll go to large tracts where beekeepers are, and we have what's called wildflower parties, where people donate all their time. They come in, and we'll have 50 people come, and we have the highest potent seeds or plant things, and go to wildflower coordinators, where there's, and then we plant seeds all out through to where those bees are, and people volunteer to do it. So we do all of those. We've probably done 3, 4, 5, 6 major ones, but all of a sudden now we're being contacted. People can organize them all over the world, because you can't just have the same seeds in one area. They all have to be different. So down in Australia, that will all be different, but we'll have groups doing it there. and we have groups. So eventually we'll just have thousands of groups that are seeding and pollinating for where those bees can pick up on those pollinations, right? So that's what we're doing when we talk about the wildflower seed, and we provide all the seeds for that. Or in some cases, the plants are already growing a bit, and then they go in and they're planted. We also talk about in urban areas around where homes are and so forth, providing where they can have their gardens and different things. So the bees are picking up even in urban areas where they're picking up food sources around people's houses and different things, or on rooftops of commercial buildings and things like that. So the more we spread out into there and the more we do organizations that we provide funds for, the more that'll get done.
Fantastic. I'd like to also mention that, with the honey that you buy in supermarkets, there's a particular type of honey, I think it's called Clover Hill, that we buy here in Australia in supermarkets. And it's not like normal honey, because normal honey, when you leave it, it doesn't become, what's the word? It's sort of, this honey that you buy has a different reaction when you leave it out to the honey that comes straight from a beehive. What happens is it sort of becomes contaminated very easily in the air, because if it was pure honey, it wouldn't do that. And
That's right.
It has an impact. So you can tell that the honey that you're buying in supermarkets is not a real source of honey, because it has a different reaction to being left out. Than normal honey wouldn't have that reaction. It would sort of sustain its normal condition. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, no, I do know. There's three things that are dealt with like that are what diluted or manipulated. One is olive oil. A lot of olive oil that you're buying is not real oil, not the really best olive oil. The other thing is maple syrup here in Canada. Like in the States, all of that maple syrup, most of what they're buying is not real maple syrup. And number three, honey. So honey, the majority of honey, and they do that for cost factor. They're manipulating and mixing it, and it just becomes a sweetener. Yeah, it's a manipulation. So some of the best honey that I have right now is from 3 years ago, right? So it's that honey will if you don't go in extreme heat or extreme cold, that'll go for 20 years, 30 years.
Exactly. That's what I'm saying. And it has all those antibacterial properties. And
big time.
If you get honey from your region where you are, it can also be like a homeopath against allergies and things like that, because it's using the flowers and things from your
it's
area.
Incredible.
Yeah.
It's incredible. What it'll do for what we do with people with feedback from our honey, because our honey is highly energized as well on top of that. So it just assimilates, but we also do what's raw. We don't heat like it's a raw honey, and it's cream, so it'll never crystallize either. Right. So it's a brilliant, I wish down there you could experience it, because it's a phenomenal. You'd never want any other honey. Believe me, after you have it, right?
Well, if we get the PureWave here in Australia and New Zealand, for example, then the quality of the honey will improve as well, of the beekeepers, and we'll get a sense of it then. So that'll be great. Well, Brent, I absolutely love what you're doing. I know you have a wonderful team behind you, including Lisa, who I've been, chatting with, and I love that you are making such a difference in the world. So I really encourage people that are listening to get on board with you, contact you, see what ways they can get involved, if they can support you in any way, or even just to your local beekeeper, share this video with your local beekeeper, and so that they can see, what you're doing and participate with their PureWave cell. And the cell in itself is so beneficial for all life forms. So that's really, really exciting. Is there anything just finally you'd like to share before we finish today, Brent?
Really, really have enjoyed meeting you and having this ability to connect with you down in Australia and spread out. It's a thrill for me, and you talk about what I'm going out and doing, but I'm getting all of this healing back to me. It's keeping me it's keeping me healthy and young, basically by all the feedback coming back as to what it's doing out there. It gives me that sense. Like, I think I'll leave you with this. I think that all of us want to be part of something that's bigger than ourselves, right?
Yes.
We come here, we do so much, but when we can do something that's larger than us and we can make a difference, I can't get any more joy than that. I mean, that you couldn't do any more for me than that, right? So I just wanted to leave with that, is that you're really healing me. Basically, when you're supporting the bees, I'm getting healed as well, right?
Oh, that's fantastic. That synergy that's happening, that cycle of
Yeah.
fantastic. Well, thank you so much, Brett. So wonderful to chat with you. And I hope we can do another video again soon and see if we can, build momentum for this. I'd love that. And there's so much more we can talk about too in terms of this whole topic. Thank you. Thank you.
Me too. Oh, the best. The best.
Welcome to the world of inventions for energy medicine. I'm Bee Broda. According to the Canadian Association of Professional Apiculturists, Canada lost almost 50% of their bee population in 2022. Researchers at the University of Waterloo feel insecticides are compromising the bee's immune system. Dr. Magda Hives, Professor Emerita at Trent University School of the Environment, believes magnetic fields also play an important role in the health and wellness of the honeybee population.
We did some research at Trent University where we were studying the effects of radiofrequency radiation on the bees. We had some beehives at a farm and exposed them to current household items that we have that emit wireless radiation. One of the things we noticed is that the bees started coming out of the hive very, very quickly.
You look at their behavior, they're all just quite happily, they're not running around, they're kind of very settled, they're fanning, they're keeping the place cool and protecting. Because these ones are running up and down at the entrance. The sounds here is not normal.
Dr. Hives is participating in a long-term research study on the use of geomagnetic fields to enhance insect and human immune systems and negate the effects of environmental pollution that may be causing the collapse of the honeybee population. This research is based upon a geometric array of 12 high-intensity magnets that are encased inside a hard enclosure to create a PureWave cell. The opposing polarities of the magnets create a spiral vortex that emanate outwards in all directions. This spiral pattern can be observed with magnetic viewing film. Liquid ferrofluid placed in a dish on top of the PureWave cell shows the invisible, evenly spaced magnetic lines rising upwards. This is an internal view of the magnets. A PureWave cell can be used to control the growth of pathogens. The vortex suppresses bacterial infestation. Spores grown in a petri dish that were not exposed to the magnet shows a proliferation of fungal growth. A study has been completed at Pathogenia Food Laboratories to determine the efficiency to reduce pathogens in food. Brewer's yeast, E. coli, Staphylococcus, and Listeria were added to meat and fruit and then treated for 5 minutes on the magnetic disc. Ground chicken and raspberries were chosen for inoculation. This study demonstrates 3 forms of Listeria were not reduced in the chicken, but showed almost a 50% reduction in the raspberries. Surprisingly, 1 form of brewer's yeast grew 50% faster in the meat, while another was reduced a similar amount in the fruit. The various forms of E. coli were eliminated in the raspberries. And all forms of Staphylococcus have been significantly reduced. When you immerse food inside a PureWave, there are many examples of how it can prolong the shelf life. Here, cauliflower remains fresh after several days, while unexposed control samples show signs of food spoilage. Research on honey is carried out here.
The first year we had 10 magnets and we were quite happy with it. Last fall we ended up with 30 magnets in the one bee yard.
In this yard here, there's about 30 hives. This yard did not get the discs, and when I came in to unpack the hives, half the yard was dead, and the half that survived, there were barely any bees, and they were not looking good at all. And now in this yard, we wintered 30 hives in here. All 30 got the magnetic disc. When I unpacked it, all 30 were alive and overflowing with bees to the point where I had to split almost every hive in this yard.
But it's swarming because they've run out of room. Like, it's just a super strong hive.
Dr. Hives feels that the magnets are improving the immune system of the honeybee as they move through the PureWave magnetic field while foraging for nectar in the farms and forest. Many beekeepers have great success with the magnets, not only having a healthy hive, but they have found an increase in the yield of honey. Education plays an important role with the company that produces the magnets. They organize workshops called 4RBEES to teach a new generation of potential beekeepers how to plant wildflower seeds in open pastures to help support the health and wellness of our insect pollinators. For more information on how you can help save the bees, visit 4RBEES.com.